It's Flashcard Friday here at Math Science History. And this Friday, I'm bringing you some perspective. That was a photography joke. Today, I will talk about some simple math tricks that will help you improve your photography. Whether you are using a phone or a camera, these tricks will help you get some of the best photos with a new perspective. First, let's use the rule of thirds. Imagine that your photo is going to be divided into 9 equal parts with 2 horizontal lines and 2 vertical lines. It's a grid. And your phone might even provide you with a grid if you choose to access it. Use this imagined or applicable grid to place key elements along these lines or at their intersections for balanced, engaging photos. Next, consider leading lines. This is a cool trick. There are natural lines that guide the viewer's eyes towards the subject. Think of roads, fences, pillars, or rivers. When you use these, they add depth and interest to your photos. I will post a picture of me on my website at mathsciencehistory.com that my husband took when I graduated with my second degree. It was taken at the downtown LA Public Library in front of a giant pillar. And I will give him the credit for the photo, even though it was my idea. But it'll give you an idea about leading lines and how they help take a beautiful picture. Oh, and by the way, while you're at Math Science History, don't forget to click on that coffee button and buy a cup of coffee, because every cup of coffee is a donation to the podcast Math Science History. So next up, symmetry and patterns. These are really pleasing to the eye. So look for symmetrical scenes or repetitive patterns and center your shot to emphasize them. I love symmetry and repetitive patterns because they really yield stunning results. Then there's something I talked a couple of weeks ago called the golden ratio. It's like the rule of thirds, but it's a lot more dynamic. It's a ratio that is about 1.5 to 1. So you place your subject at a point that follows this tiny ratio for a naturally appealing composition. Now let's talk about light and exposure. Math is utilized for this too. Doing a callback to the rule of thirds, if you have a line of light like a sunset, position the horizon along the top or the bottom horizontal line and place the sun near one of the intersections. This really harmonizes the photo, and I know that's a funny way of saying it, but it's a third, and it creates this balance, and the eyes fall in a certain way to truly see the application of the sun to the sunrise or the sunset. Math is at the core of photography, especially when balancing shutter speed, ISO, and aperture to get the perfect shot. Shutter speed, measured in fractions of a second, like 1/250th or 1/1000th, controls how long light hits the sensor. Longer exposures let in more light, but can blur fast-moving objects. ISO adjusts the sensor's sensitivity to light, with lower numbers, with the ISO being 100, producing clearer images, and higher numbers, like an ISO of 3200, adding brightness but also grain. Aperture, which is measured in f-stops, controls how wide the lens opens. Lower f numbers, like f over 2.8, let in more light and blur the background, while higher f numbers, like f over 11, keep more of the scene in focus. These 3 settings form the exposure triangle, where adjusting one requires balancing the others to achieve proper exposure. It's like a tripod. If you adjust one leg, you have to adjust the other 2 so it's not leaning. A fast shutter speed like 1/1000th requires a wider aperture or higher ISO, while a slow shutter speed like 1/30th may need a smaller aperture or a lower ISO to avoid overexposure. Understanding these mathematical relationships helps photographers control light, motion, and depth to capture the perfect image. Another way math is used in photography is with focal length and zoom. Focal length is measured in millimeters and will define how much of the scene you want. So when you zoom in or when you zoom out, photographers use math to obtain the desired focal length to control how much of a scene they captured and how subjects appear in relation to their surroundings. A shorter focal length, like 18 millimeters, captures a wider view, making it great for landscapes or large scenes, while a longer focal length, like 200 millimeters, zooms in, making distant subjects appear closer and more detailed, like in wildlife or sports photography. The choice of focal length also affects perspective. Wide-angle lenses exaggerate distances, making objects seem farther apart, while telephoto lenses compress space, making objects appear closer together. This is why a photo of a city skyline taken with a zoom lens looks like the buildings are stacked tightly together, while a wide-angle shot of the same skyline makes them seem more spaced out. By understanding how different lenses change what we see, photographers can use focal length to create the exact composition and feeling they want in an image. Finally, depth of field. Depth of field is controlled through aperture settings. So let's say you want to get a photo with the shallow depth of field, which would make the background blurry and focus on the subject. In that case, a lower f-stop number, which is a larger aperture, would help you get that perfect photo with a blurry background and a sharp subject. Now, let's say you want the entire scene in sharp focus. You would use a higher f-stop number, which means you would use a smaller aperture. This increases the depth of field and keeps the scene in focus. Math helps photographers frame the perfect shot. So whether you're calculating focal length or just trying to focus on getting a clear picture, remember that math is always in the frame, whether you notice it or not. Until next time, carpe diem.